Whenever people talk about the combat in Arc Raiders, it usually comes back to the weapons. Which makes sense, they're the core of every fight. But lately I've been thinking, what about everything else we bring in with us? Because once you start paying attention to the equipment, the tools, the gadgets, all the stuff sitting quietly in your quick slots, you start realizing just how much of an impact they can actually have. Learn to use them right and they can be the reason you survive a raid. And I think once people start really figuring that out, you're gonna start seeing a lot more of them in play. So it's probably worth getting ahead of the curve, learning how they work now, before someone else uses them in a way that completely catches you off guard. And that's what this video's for. I'm breaking down every piece of equipment we've got so far, what they actually do, and how it changes the rhythm of a raid once you start using them intentionally. Quick disclaimer, everything here is based on the latest server slam. So things like crafting materials, the cost, stats, they all might be a bit different post-launch. So I've used a lot of the equipment, but I haven't used everything. So some of this will come from research and just what I've observed. Treat this as a snapshot of how equipment behaves today, not a locked-in guide. Let's start with the healing items and later we'll get into the more fun stuff. First up are your bandages. As you'd expect, they're for healing your white health. You have 3 tiers of these. Well, technically 4. First is your common bandage. This roughly heals 25 health over 10 seconds. It's cheap and decent if you've got the time to let it heal you, but mid-fight it's barely going to change much unless you have time to reset the engagement. Then there's a herbal bandage. This gives you 35 health over 10 seconds. Obviously it's better than the common bandage, but still you need time to disengage and let it heal. Then there's the sterilized bandages, which heals 50 total health over 10 seconds. Still, it's the same time cost, but it allows you to get back in the fight a lot more quicker and healthier. And then technically there's a 4th bandage, which is just fabric, but this only heals 11 health over 25 seconds. But by the time that finishes, you'll be at the pearly gates asking God what the fuck happened. I highly recommend to everybody to get this perk that lets you craft in raid. You can turn 5 pieces of fabric into a common bandage, which I promise you is going to do a lot better. Then you've got 2 more high tier white healing items. First is the Vita Shot. It gives you 50 health and it takes about 4 seconds to use. But unlike the bandages, this gives you all the health instantly. It's easily one of the best white health healing items during a fight. In messy fights where you can carve out a small pocket but not a full reset, Vita Shots just make more sense. You spend less time locked out of the action and come back ready to fight. Then there's the Vita Spray. I never actually found one of these, and I honestly can't even find gameplay of it being used. So we're just going to pretend this Fortnite clip is close enough. On paper though, it sounds great. It's got 150 point capacity and heals 10 health per second. You're not locked into a 10-second trickle like a bandage or a 4-second hold like the shot. You just pull the trigger and decide how much you want to use. Stop mid-spray, start again later, keep it flexible. And to me that's what makes it so appealing. You can quickly top off when you have a second, or just become a medic and patch your teammate. Whether it ends up balanced or not is anyone's guess, but if it works anything like it reads, it'll be a big advantage in terms of sustain. Then I guess this is the last white health item, which is the defibrillator. When I first used this in Tech Test 2, I thought it would be able to bring my friend back from being fully wiped, but that was not the case. Instead, it's a quick way to revive. It takes about 1.5 seconds and your teammate's instantly back with 50 health, which being able to get your team back up that quickly is such a game changer in a team fight. And also you can use them to pick up enemy players.
Thank you. Oh, you're the first person to get me up. Okay.
Up next is the shield recharging items. What catches people off guard with how shields actually work is that they don't behave like in Apex or Fortnite, where blue health just sits on top of white. In Arc, shields only mitigate incoming white bar damage while they're active. So if your base health's low, even a full shield won't save you. And that's why you need to manage both layers carefully. Typically, it's always best to heal your white health first. The main shield recharger restores 40 shield over 10 seconds. It only takes 2 seconds to use, so they're very easy to keep topped up on in the middle of a fight. Then there's the surge recharger, which is much like the Vita Shot. This has a 5-second use time, but instantly gives you 50 shield. So a Vita Shot followed by this is just the dream blunt rotation. Then you've got Arc Power Cells, which is sort of the fabric version of shield recharging, just not nearly as bad. These give you 20 shield over 10 seconds. They're found by looting Arc enemies. And again, like the fabric, if you have this perk, you can craft them into a shield recharge with a bit of rubber. Then you have the Adrenaline Shot, which is for stamina. I have a feeling this is going to be one of the most slept on items. Most people don't think about stamina until it runs out, but the Adrenaline Shot is so underrated. Even in Tech Test 2 I completely ignored these, but in the Server Slam, by the end of it, I wouldn't go into a raid without a stack. They're incredibly cheap and they're just helpful when you're traversing long distances, or just when you're trying to outrun Arc or other players. I wasn't going to include this, but I'll keep it short. There's a bunch of smaller food items. All of them give you a bit of health or stamina, but it's also little it barely matters. They feel more like world flavor than actual survival tools. Okay, next up are your actual shields. This is one of the simplest systems in Ark right now. Currently, there's only 3 of them, and I'm really hoping that's just for now. Maybe we'll see more variants or modifiers later down the line. Gecko actually made a really great video a while back about making shields moddable, because it's a cool idea that could add a lot of depth to the system. Alright, first up are your light shields. They're what you bring when you broke. They've got 40 shield charge and mitigate 40% of white health damage, but also they have no movement penalty. They're cheap, easy to craft, and pair with any raid or augment. The medium shield is a big step up. It gives you 70 shield charge and 42.5% mitigation, but there's a small 5% movement penalty. The only difference here is it requires a specific raid or augment to equip, but that trade feels fair. You feel the weight a tiny bit, but it's completely worth it. Then there's the heavy shield. This gives you 80 shield charge, but 52.5% mitigation, but also a big 15% movement penalty. In the server slam, these weren't available, so I can't say for sure which raid or augments needed to be able to equip these. Which, speaking of raid or augments, let's talk about that. In the server slam, we only saw Mark 0 and Mark 1. We know Mark 2 and Mark 3 exist, but we'll have to wait to launch to see them. Augments are kind of the backbone of the entire loadout. They decide your carry weight, backpack slots, safe pockets, quick use slots, weapon capacity, and even what shield tiers you're allowed to equip. They're simple, but quietly shape how you build your loadout. Mark 0 is your free loadout augment. They give you a 35 kilogram capacity, 14 backpack slots, 4 quick use slots, but you get 0 safe pockets, as well as only being able to use light shields. Then there's Mark 1 augments. First is the looting augment. This gives you 50 kilograms, 18 backpack slots, 1 safe pocket, and 4 quick use slots. But you can only use a light shield with this. The name speaks for itself, it's best used for farming runs. Then you have the Mark 1 combat augment. This gives you 45 kilograms of carry capacity, 16 backpack slots, 1 safe pocket, 4 quick use, but this allows you to use light or medium shields. Then there's the Mark 1 tactical augment. This gives you 40 kilogram capacity, 15 backpack slots, 1 safe pocket, and 5 quick use slots. Like the combat augment, this also allows you to use medium shields. This augment essentially trades some carry capacity for that 5th quick slot. We didn't see any Mark 2 or Mark 3 augments in the server slam, but back in Tech Test 2 there were 4 total tiers. But the system's been reworked, so none of that old data's really reliable anymore. If I had to guess, Mark 2 and Mark 3 will probably follow the same structure: looting, combat, and tactical variants, just with higher capacities and new shield unlocks. Alright, up next is the utility items. These are the things that let you improvise, like the barricade kit, which is a deployable cover that blocks incoming damage until it breaks. It's got 500 health in total, and it's perfect for buying time to heal or reload, especially if you're pinned in open terrain. One of the cool things about it is it can be deconstructed and brought with you when you're done with it. Then there's the door blocker, which yes, does exactly that. It's a small thing, but it can completely change pacing. Remote Raider flares are a deployable device that launches a Raider distress flare when manually triggered. This is more of a baiting or distraction tool compared to an offensive or defensive one. I just used it to mess around and make fireworks, if I'm being honest. I'm not sure if PvE actually reacts to it. Leave a comment if you know the answer. Then you've got ziplines that you can set up between 2 points. They're visible and obvious, but when used creatively, they can open up movement routes that shouldn't exist. I can sum the binoculars up in 2 words. Yeah, you wouldn't catch me walking around with my pants around my ankles carrying one of those. But you do you, mate. The flame spray's a new one. It's a makeshift flamethrower. It's not elegant, but it turns you into a complete menace. The noisemaker is a deployable proximity sensor. It emits an alarm when an enemy raider is detected nearby. This one's all about awareness, perfect for holding down a building. The photoelectric cloak is a gadget that temporarily conceals you from arc detection. It's basically some Harry Potter stealth wand shit. The recorder is the single best item in the game. Bring it every raid or you're a coward.
Well, I'm over in combat, I'm running.
The snap hook is Arc Raider's grappling hook. This used to be a more common item, but now it's changed to legendary, and for good reason. It also used to have unlimited uses, but they changed it to have durability now. And for how much I used it, it seems very generous. The possibilities with the snap hook are endless. It gives you such a massive mobility boost. It's definitely one of the most exciting tools, I think. Quick pause, if you've been enjoying these deep dives, I'd really appreciate it if you hit subscribe. I have so much more content planned for Ark, and I'd love to have you along for the ride. Alright, next up is the traps. Traps come in 2 types. You've got the laser traps and the mines. The laser traps are deployable tripwires that detonate grenades when triggered. They're meant for control, slowing pushes, defending choke points, or just creating chaos for anyone who walks into your line. Right now, there are 4 versions. You've got one for the blaze grenade, the gas grenade, the lure grenade, and the smoke grenade. But we'll talk about the actual grenades in their own section. The other traps are your mines. First is the jolt mine, which is a proximity mine that stuns enemies in its radius. That alone can make it one of the best defensive tools that you can bring. Stunning a raider mid-push can completely flip a fight. Then there's a jump mine, which is like a bouncing Betty. It pops up and explodes, dealing damage to anything nearby. Very straightforward, but another perfect defense tool. It's perfect for punishing aggressive players who don't check their corners. Traps are shaping up to be the thinking player's weapon. They're less about damage output and more about control. Alright, now for the big section. Grenades are one of those systems that quietly define how chaotic Arc Raiders can get. In my opinion, I think these will have a lot of impact. I think they'll become what skilled players master to gain the advantage. There's a ton of them already, each with different effects. And it feels like this is where Embark's really letting the sandbox go wild. The blaze grenade detonates on impact and leaves behind a patch of fire that deals damage over time. It's perfect for denying space, especially in small interiors or choke points. If you've ever been forced out of cover because of one, you know how brutal it can be. Gas grenades create a lingering toxic cloud that drains the stamina from any raider caught inside. It's not lethal on its own, but it punishes anyone trying to push you or caught out in the open. The heavy fuse grenade is like Ark's version of a classic frag. You throw it, wait a few seconds, and it detonates. It's explosive damage in a small radius, best for clearing cover or making space to rush. To me, smoke grenades are one of the most impactful grenades you can have. There's two versions, a small one and a big one. They're great for blocking sight lines, vanishing mid-fight, covering extraction points or something you're trying to loot, or just straight up confusing your enemy. Used right, this can change a fight more than any explosive. Light impact grenades, well, detonate on impact. From my experience, they're quite useless against players, but I found that they do well against drones. Then there's a light stick, which isn't technically a grenade, it's a throwable glow stick that illuminates a dark area. So this sounds useless, but there's a time me and my team really wish we had them.
I don't see anything. This is such a nightmare.
I won't lie, they're super situational that it's largely not worth a slot. I personally just use them to troll down players. Lure grenades do exactly that. They're a device that sticks to a surface and draws Arc attention. With how strong Arc actually are, they're incredibly useful. You can throw them at other teams to make their lives living hell, or just use them when you're overrun by Arc to make your escape. The showstopper is a stun grenade that detonates after a short delay, stunning enemies caught in its radius. Basically, Arc's flashbang. It's incredible when used right. You can bring down a Rocketeer and get your revenge, which just makes this S tier to me. The Snap Blast grenade is a sticky grenade that detonates after a short delay. I'll just play this clip.
Bye, me.
So I've had the tagging grenade, but I've never actually used it successfully. And I can't find any clips of it, so I'm not that sure how it works. I'd assume it works like COD snapshot grenades, but I don't know. Leave a comment. The trigger nade is Arc Raider C4. You choose when it goes off, meaning you can bait enemies, stack traps, or line up perfect ambushes. This is a tool that rewards patience. Monkey bombs are one of the most useful items. Wind it up and throw it and it distracts the zombies for a small time. Great to use when your friend's down with a ray gun. The wolf pack is one of the most unique items listed. It's a grenade that scatters into homing missiles, each targeting arc units and dealing explosive damage on impact. It's overkill in the best way possible. Then we have these throwables that are tied to actual loot. Some are like small versions of grenades, and then you have some that are entirely unique to arc machines. The fireball burner is same as the blaze grenade, but it has a much smaller radius. The wasp drives are essentially an explosive grenade, while the hornet drives are essentially a smaller showstopper. The Leaper Pulse unit is something I didn't know that existed, but you throw it to create a violent singularity. It's cool as shit. The rubber duck, the icon, the myth. This is essentially just a small lure grenade. The snitch scanner can be thrown to call in flying arc. Drop it near an enemy team and watch the world burn. When people think about power in Arc Raiders, they think about the guns, the big flashy stuff. But it's all these smaller tools too. The bandages, the gadgets, the shields, the traps. They're what actually keep you alive long enough to make those awesome moments happen. One thing I've realized about Arc Raiders is it's a game not just about shooting. It's a game about solving problems. And every one of these items is a different way of doing that. They're these small, quiet things that decide whether you make it back. And once players start mastering these, learning how to stack them, combine them, improvise with them, that's where Arc Sandbox is going to come alive in a way we haven't seen yet. So yeah, keep chasing the best guns and the perfect loadouts. But don't forget the simple stuff. Because the real difference between a good raider and a great one is how they make use of the smaller things. I feel like a broken record, but what the fuck. 2 weeks ago, I said I was aiming for 5k before launch. Launch is tomorrow and we just hit 10.5k. I genuinely have no words, just thank you. I have a lot planned for this channel and I'd love to have you along for the ride. Thanks so much for being here. Take care.